rebuild in Miami is underway here. They've got a lot of dead cap money. They've got a lot of roster questions, but they have a new regime coming in. They're going to be patient. They're going to do it the right way, and they added 3 draft picks today to give them double ones next month in Pittsburgh, along with 4 third-round draft picks in what many people, and Mel can attest to this, consider to be the heart of the draft.
Yeah, fascinating. There's so many different angles to this as we welcome you into the show. Dan Orlovsky's here. We got Mel Kiper Jr. It's a big day. We got mock draft action to get into. We'll get to that. Adam with us throughout the show. Dan, let's live on this trade, starting with the Broncos side of things. How does Waddle fit there in that offense?
It was the number 1 hole for this football team. This is a championship caliber roster, and there's a case to be said. They don't really have a hole outside of like that true number 1 receiver that's a vertical guy. Courtland Sutton's been their number 1 guy, very good player, but he's a big-bodied person. And then you have younger players like Franklin and Bryant, but they're not really at that level. And Mims is a dynamic kind of gadget guy. Jaylen Waddle's a 1. And so this makes so much sense for Denver, because if you're Denver, you're sitting there at the 30th pick, and we're in an area where people are saying this isn't the greatest first class potentially of all time. What player was Denver going to take at 30 that was going to truly impact this football team? It didn't exist. And so that's why for Denver to take that pick, send it to Miami, and get a true vertical stretch wide receiver essentially with the 30th pick of the draft. And this draft for a team that is a championship caliber team, it's a no-brainer and a very good move for Denver.
Yeah, you think about how close they were this past postseason. Bo Nix getting healthier. Had he been healthier, maybe they go a lot further. Adam, this makes you, though, say, okay, on the Dolphins side of things, you talked about rebuild mode for them. Why go sign Malik Willis in free agency and then trade away his top target? He may be sitting there thinking, if he didn't know about this, what's going on?
Because you have to field a competitive team. And the new Dolphins general manager, John Eric Sullivan, came from Green Bay. And the new the new Dolphins head coach, Jeff Hafley, came from Green Bay. And they want to start things over in their way. And Malik Willis gives them the ability to try to compete and try to stay competitive with the idea of somebody that they're comfortable with and that they believe in while they wait to build up that roster. And maybe Malik Willis does turn into their quarterback of the future. But if he doesn't, they certainly have enough draft picks that they could look to add an additional quarterback in the 2027 draft that is considered today to be quarterback rich. So, again, you can't throw away everything. You've got to field a team, and you've got to try to win games. And they're trying to do that, but they felt the value here by getting 3 draft picks back in return for a player who was already being paid a lot of money, who's already been around for a little while, was worth the gamble for this team to take at this time.
The Dolphins are building for 2028, so this is the right decision for them, even though Waddle's a very good player. I think they can get a draft wide receiver that they can build around earlier in the draft. But it does make me think, because there's been 2 teams, and you've heard me say this, that I've said, like, these are the great places for the Alabama quarterback, Ty Simpson. Arizona would be one, and Miami would be another. And I know they just paid Malik Willis. I know that. But given the timeline and given just the style of the quarterback with the style of offense that would be in Miami, at least under this regime, it makes me think, even though they signed Malik Willis, they should do their homework and entertain drafting Ty Simpson in Miami.
All right, Mel, I got to get your take on this. We're going to get to where Mel actually has Ty Simpson mocked, but what do you think of what Dan's pitching here, Ty Simpson for the Dolphins?
Depends on how you felt about Malik Willis both coming out and where he is right now. I liked him coming out of Liberty, formerly of Auburn. He was right there with Kenny Pickett. That could have gone either way at pick 20. And he dropped to the 3rd round, and he's turned out pretty good. And now Green Bay knows what he is and how he developed and how he prepares. And those teammates love Malik Willis. Now you got the GM and the head coach bringing him there. Give him a fighting chance, guys. Give him a fighting chance. And go get a receiver like Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State or Mekhi Lemon out of USC. Obviously, Carnell Tate, Ohio State, we're expected to be gone by then. But you can get receivers, not just one. I'd get 3 in this draft. Take advantage of the quality at the top with the big 3. Get one of those guys, be it Tyson or Lemon, and then get 2 or more, because this wide receiver group is 45 deep. You get one in the 3rd round, that's outstanding, all the way into the 6th, 7th round. And some undrafted free agents will play in this league from that wide receiver spot. So they need them, and I think they get 3 via this draft. But it starts out maybe with Jordan Tyson or Mekhi Lemon, and I think you have your young quarterback to build around in Malik Willis.
Yeah, They have all those third-round picks. I mean, to Mel's point, that's going to be a really receiver-rich area.
Totally. I do. Wide receiver-wise, I still think that wide receiver for their first-round pick could be very much on the board because I do agree with Mel, fighting champs. I'm a little bit more of the Mekhi Lemon, Omar Cooper Jr. camp. I just think those guys have the competitive dog in them. They're Amon-Ra St. Brown, they're Puka Nacua, they're JSN in that regard. The only reason that I say Simpson may be on the back half of the second round, because if you look at these receivers, and Omar Cooper Jr. is a phenomenal over-the-middle field guy. I don't care what you say about Mekhi Lemon's testing or press conferences. His tape is absolutely phenomenal. And the reason I like those guys is just you're building around them. And for either of those young quarterbacks, if it's a Ty Simpson for them or if it's Malik Willis, I do think that having that receiver to just be the reliable guy is a very big part.
I'm glad you brought that up about Mekhi Lemon, by the way. Like, watch the tape, people.
Just don't overthink football. He's a football player.
Bingo. We'll table that. We could get back to it later. But, Mel, you did release your latest mock. I've been teasing it. We've been talking about it. You had Simpson going to the Jets at 16. There's a lot here, by the way. We'll get into all of it. But I want to focus on that highlighted name there, Ty Simpson. What was the thinking there pairing him with the Jets?
Well, he made a lot of moves, and I think when you look at the New York Jets in that division, obviously you saw what Drake May was able to do. You got Josh Allen. To think about where we are right now with Ty Simpson, 15 starts, that's a dangerous, risky number. We all know that. But they have Geno Smith, and Geno Smith can be there as a starting quarterback to allow Ty to sit, watch, and learn. Remember, Jordan Love was developed not that long ago and sat for a while. That was the Green Bay's way of developing quarterbacks. Why can't Ty Simpson sit as well? I know he's 23 years of age, but minimal starts. Obviously beat up late this year, but up until that point, he was playing great football, despite no running game and an inconsistent offensive line and receivers that were not catching everything thrown their way. So for the Jets, he wants to be a Jet. I think this is Frank Reich. Frank Reich drafted Bryce Young #1 overall when he became head coach at Carolina. If Frank Reich signs off and says, I love this kid, another Alabama quarterback. Remember, they drafted Joe Namath. They had Richard Todd. Now you get another one. But I think Frank Reich, guys, is key to this whole decision-making. If he loves Ty Simpson, why not at 16? What do you think? You get Arch or Dante next year? That may not work out that way. And who says, Arch wants to be a Jet? This kid does want to be a Jet. I know it's a graveyard for quarterbacks. We all know that. But for Ty Simpson at 16, I do think it makes some sense.
I mean, I think Ty Simpson's a better player than Dante Moore coming out right now. We'll see what Dante becomes next year. If Ty Simpson was 6'4", the Jets would take him at #2. I think his tape is that good. I think watching his tape on a week-by-week basis and watching him make NFL throw after NFL throw on these big ends, these deep crossing routes, they're real passes, not the 3 or 4 yarders. If I'm the Jets and I like him, I agree with Mel. Take him. So what if you take him at 16 and he doesn't pan out this year? You have 3 first-round picks next year.
Take another quarterback?
You have to get it right, the Jets. You have 5 first-rounders in the next 2 years. The #1 goal is to find the quarterback in one of those 5 first-round picks. I don't care how you go about it or who it is. So if you take him this year at 16 and he doesn't play well, just take a quarterback next year and figure out the position.
Adam, I'm coming to you in a second. But
Laura, what was that look? Laura,
Well,
what was that
just
look
a lot
that
of
you made there just there?
quarterbacks. A lot of quarterbacks for Dan. Dan is suggesting, I mean, if I'm a Jets fan, I'm like, how many quarterbacks are we going to take here before we find?
Till you find them?
Okay,
as many as it takes.
Come on. I mean, you could build maybe your team a little better if you didn't keep doing that. I hear you. We're going to get into this more, but I do have one thing on Ty Simpson. You've talked a lot about how well he played in the early part, like through the first 8 games of the season. I completely agree with you. What have you thought about the tape in the latter part that has people questioning some things?
Yeah, I don't think the fall off is nearly as drastic as people make it out to be. The one area would be his play fell off when bodies were around him, around his feet, and I think the ball started to die on him a little bit. The only pushback I have to it is it's not an incapability thing. I watched him do it at a very high level the first 8 games. I just think you saw the team wear down. I think you saw him wear down, and therefore the chaos that he played in became a little bit more of a overwhelming thing, but that's not really a thing that is a concern for me. I have a body of work that is so good.
Yeah, they struggled in the run game. There were a lot of things
terrible
about
in the
that
run game.
Alabama
Drops
offense.
everywhere. I would make the case he carried Alabama for 2 months.
No, you can make that case. I was there for a lot of those games. I agree. But that's why I was curious what you would think. Adam, are the Jets going to do this? Are they going to take a quarterback this year, whether it's at 16 or 2, or it's not going to be a 2? But go ahead.
Yeah. I think the key thing to remember here is that the Jets have 3 first-round draft picks in 2027. They are loaded to bear in 2027. And again, nobody knows other than the Jets exactly what they're going to do. But I can tell you that in talking to people around the league, I think the feeling seems to be that the Jets will take a quarterback in this draft, but it is more likely to be in the middle rounds. To take a quarterback that they believe in, that they can develop. I think the people that I've spoken with, I think they'd be a little surprised to see pick 16 devoted to a quarterback, though the Jets certainly are capable of doing anything here, and there's still a lot of time between now and the draft. But the early signs that I'm reading right now would be that the Jets would wait in the first round on a quarterback and then come back and revisit it in the middle rounds, knowing that they have 3 first-round picks next year, their own, the Colts, and the higher pick of the Cowboys and the Packers in 2027, when the draft is supposed to be loaded with quarterbacks. Now, this draft was supposed to be loaded with quarterbacks. Right. Didn't exactly work out that way. But, again, next year the Jets have 3 ones. And the sense around the league right now, a little over a month out, is that they'll wait and they'll take a quarterback somewhere in the middle rounds, and we'll see if that turns out to be true.
The only 2 caveats I would throw into this as well. For everyone that's going 2027, I could give you 3 organizations right now that are just going to be empty the bucket all in on quarterback. So you better have the top 3 pick if you think you're going to get one of those potential guys.
Who are those? Jets?
I mean, you're looking at the Jets, you're looking at the Cleveland Browns, you could be looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, these organizations are going to be like, we have nothing for the future. So if you want one of these potential first-rounders next year, if you have the 4th pick, good luck. The other thing is this. I do believe that there was the most ideal setting for Simpson. I would say Arizona, trade back somewhere into the mid-teens, maybe early 20s, and select him there. I think that's the ideal place for that young man.
Yeah, and Arizona might be a candidate to do that for sure, although it's hard to think about who they'd miss out on if they traded back. But either way, maybe they get some good capital. All right, this is fascinating, and we are just getting started. There's a lot more to dive into, and these people are going to be here with you.